How's it going, everyone? This is Draoi with another damn level. Today I'm going to be covering a Mesmer build. I figured we would switch it up and do something new, because all I have covered so far is elementalist builds, so we'd like to expand our horizons a little bit. This is a Mesmer build that I built primarily for PvP. Now, it works fine in PvE, but it was definitely made for PvP. It is a condition-based Mesmer build with lots of invisibility and the general ability to cause lots of chaos. It's fantastic. It's great, especially in team fights. So this is a confusion-based build, which is a condition pretty much almost exclusive to the Mesmer. They have a lot of ways of applying it and a lot of ways kind of moving it around and taking advantage of it. So that's what this build tries to do, is gives us the maximum output of confusion. That's it. That's the mechanic we want to hang on to. That's what we're here for. Lots of confusion. So we're going to go over traits and gear in this particular video, and then the next video will be the rotations, cooldowns, what we need to look out for when we're actively, in combat with this particular build, and how to use some of the combo fields with some of our weapon skills and things like that. But for now, just traits and gear and kind of how all this ties together. So the traits are 4, 0, 0, 4, and 6. That's 4 domination, 4 inspiration, 6 illusions, which looks somewhat weird for a condition build, but it will make sense kind of as we go over things. So first is domination. It adds to our condition duration and gives us power. Not too worried about the power, more worried about that condition duration. And the first trait we take here is crippling dissipation. Clones cripple nearby foes when they are killed. So this is if they're killed by the enemy, they'll cripple them. When they shatter, they should cripple everyone around them. It's good for chase downs, good for keeping the battlefield kind of under control. Under your control, keeping everyone from moving around a whole lot, grouping them up so you can use some of your AoE skills, which you'll see from your torch and stuff like that. Next is confusing enchantments. Glamour skills cause confusion to foes who enter or exit their areas. We carry 2 glamour skills for this specific trait right here. This is a pivotal trait to make this build work. And we'll go over these utility skills here after we cover the traits. Next is the just movement speed. Really, it's 10% increased movement speed for every illusion you have active. You're not going to have that many illusions active for a long duration, but you'll have a lot of them for a short duration. So you'll have them up pretty consistently because you're continually shattering them, trying to get these effects out and deal lots of AoE damage. So it's okay. It's one of the better ones that was in there, and it allows you to get better juxtaposition for when you are invisible, kind of getting behind your foes and around them, and you can really kind of mess with people with that increased movement speed when they're chasing around your illusions and they get crippled and you're invisible and moving faster. It's a nice touch. After that is increased condition duration while wielding a scepter, plus 200 condition damage. It's by far one of the best skills for a condition build, or best traits, sorry, for a condition build that I've seen in the game thus far. That's a pretty big boost. That's more than your ruin set will give you. That's like half of your armor set's easily worth of condition damage just for holding this trait in a scepter. And then it reduces the cooldown on your scepter skills by 20%, which is good because the way this build works is we have a scepter in our main hand, and then we swap out our offhand, and our offhand is a pistol or a torch. And we'll kind of show you how everything comes together with how that works and why we took just 2 offhands. But we keep the scepter in our main hand for the malicious sorcery. We always want that increased condition damage. Last is illusions. Master of Misdirection. Confusion you inflict lasts 33% longer. That's all it is. It's very straightforward. Our primary condition sits on a target longer. It's great. Blinding Befuddlement. So you cause confusion when you blind a foe. Now this ties into our torch. Our torch has an AoE blind, which means we have an AoE confusion. The prestige, which up to 5 targets will give blindness and burning, and with this trait also confusion. It's really nice. Works very, very well. The last one is illusionary persona. Shattering illusions creates a shatter effect on you as well. Again, this is a PvP centric build, so you're almost always going to have someone around you, which means the shatter effect off yourself. You can use Cry of Frustration, which will give them 2 stacks of confusion instead of 1, because Cry of Frustration already gives a stack of confusion, which works quite well. But it shattering off you means you don't have to have illusions up for those effects to take place, so that it works very, very nicely in those close quarter fights. So those are the traits. We'll go over weapon skills, utility skills, and then we'll go over gear. So we're using Scepter, then we're using Torch, and then we're using Pistol. So Scepter is a 3-chain skill. The first 2 cost Torment, which is another condition, which is why we have the Scepter. And then the last one will create a clone. This is the easiest way to create lots of clones, is by just using your 1 skill with the Scepter. If your things like Phantasmal Mage and your Decoy are on cooldown. Next is the Illusionary Counter. Now, Illusionary Counter, or the counter spell that you get after you activate it, causes blindness in a line. So when we activate it here, you'll notice it'll start channeling, and if you interrupt the channel by hitting the button again, it'll shoot out an orb in a line. Whoever touches that orb is blinded, and then also consequently gets 1 stack of confusion. Next is Torch, the Prestige, which is an AoE that causes blindness, burning, and then consequently confusion because it caused blindness, and then gives you 3 seconds of stealth. That's going to be one of your key skills, and it's a combo finisher or blast. Phantasmal Mage, we aren't too concerned with keeping tons and tons of our illusions up because we just want to get them up, and then we want to shatter them with Cry of Frustration or Mind Rack. It's really all we want them for. Then we have our Pistol, which is Phantasmal Duelist. Again, get them up, shatter them, that's all we really want it for. But we get Magic Bullet. Now, Magic Bullet is a ricochet skill, which means it bounces between 3 different enemies. The first one is stunned, the second one is dazed, and the third one is blinded. Now, stunned and dazed can be considered interrupts if they catch someone in the middle of an action. And the minor traits inside of our domination trait skill line means that we'll give them stacks of vulnerability. So the illusion of vulnerability, it inflicts vulnerability when you interrupt a foe, and then when you daze a foe as well. So if you manage to interrupt someone with the second shot, they'll be given 8 stacks of vulnerability. It works very nicely. And then the last one is blinding, which again, since it's blind them, it will give them 1 stack of confusion. Works really nicely. Then we have our utility skills. So our heal skill, we use Mirror because it reflects projectiles, and in PvP against rangers and even thieves, it will help reflect a lot of the damage back when you do need to heal, which is primarily why we've taken that. That, and it heals for one of the highest amounts out of the heal skills. And it has a 15-second cooldown, so you can get pretty consistent healing from that. Next is Decoy. This is our stun break. This is what we use to get out of those situations where you've been locked down by some hard CC or a stun. It'll break us out of that, give us 3 seconds of invisibility, and create a clone. This is really, it's kind of your emergency skill. You use it to get away, get out of those situations. The last 2 in our primary utility bar here is Null Field and Veil. Now, Null Field is a AoE kind of bubble that will take the boons off foes and it will cure conditions on you. But more importantly, it will apply confusion to any enemies that enter or exit the field, which means if they dodge through one side and then go out the other, they'll get 2 stacks of confusion. Veil, which is kind of a wall, it's a line wherever you place it, and then if you go through it or if your allies go through it, it gives 2 seconds of stealth or invisibility. But again, it's a glamour skill, so if an enemy goes through it, they get a stack of confusion. Lastly, we have Time Warp. I prefer Time Warp because it works really well with your pistol, because it's considered a physical projectile finisher, and the prestige from your torch because it's a blast finisher. So prestige will give you chaos armor, and your magic bullet, it will cause it to cause more conditions after it goes through the ethereal field, and that can be said for your null field and for your time warp. And then for your veil, it's a light field, so it'll cure conditions. So gear wise, it's pretty simple. It's about what you'd expect for a conditioned Mesmer. So we go here to equipment. We are running carry-on gear, and that's power, vitality, condition damage. You're running it for everything, all your weapons, all your armor, all your trinkets. That's the stat line I tend to carry. Now you can carry any stat line with this, being, you can go crit with condition damage, or you can just go toughness with condition damage, as long as you have that condition damage. The power will help punch through a lot of condition removal, especially if you're fighting like a guardian. What's important though is the rune that we have in this armor, the superior rune of perplexity. It gives us a grand total of 175 condition damage and 30% increase in our confusion duration. In addition to that, it gives us a 25% chance when we get hit to inflict 3 stacks of confusion. Now it has a 25-second internal cooldown, so it won't be happening a lot, but it will be happening enough to matter pretty significantly, especially if you are in a one-on-one with someone. Lastly, when you interrupt a foe, it will cause 5 stacks of confusion to be applied to them, which is pretty important. Now, one thing to note about that last one is with your illusionary counter skill here. If you are channeling and someone tries to hit you with a melee skill, for some melee skills that is considered a interrupt, which is an interesting detail. Not all melee skills, but some melee skills. But really what we want is this magic bullet. So stun and daze are considered interrupts as long as you catch them in the middle of an action, which means it will trigger the final your final tier of this rune here. Now something to note is that does have a 15-second internal cooldown for that effect. So if you interrupt 2 targets, the first one that was hit is the only one that effect will be applied to, essentially. So that is it for traits and gear for the Misdirection Mesmer build. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe. So we're going to do here, we're going to apply our stacks of vulnerability. Say we've been brawling. We've got our stacks up pretty high. Come in here, and we're going to drop one of these. And then we're going to drop one of these. And you can see the amount of damage that you can do is actually pretty significant. And you get the bleeding from Ice Storm. You don't do a whole lot of condition damage with this particular build.